am Tammy with TNT Grace and Grit. Here today with two co-hosts, Ruby and Miss Stinker, laying here next to me, being my little lap dog right now. Today's subject is going to be on 21 foods that almost never expire. Try to remember to look over here for the camera, but it's kind of hard to do when my face is here, and I feel like I want to look people in the eyes. Apologize for that. All right, I have pictures because I love pictures. So the very first food that almost never expires is white rice. It has a 25 years or more shelf life when stored with oxygen absorbers in Mylar bags. Or you can seal them in glass jars and then use the electronic vacuum sealer to put over those lids to pull the air out. Now, I was told by Gemini when I was doing my research that you could do both, but it would be overkill. You didn't have to. On white rice, that is. But you do need to take all the oxygen out of it for it to last longer. I've also been told by some people to freeze it first for 3 to 5 days, then let it come back to room temperature for 3 to 5 days, then do your storage. I've also been told that it's not actually necessary if you take all the air out and if you put an oxygen absorber in with any kind of your rice or your pasta grains, because the oxygen absorber kills the eggs. So you do your own research and you do you. I believe I'm going to put an oxygen absorber in the jar and take the air out both in my grains. So I right now have some rice that's been stored for 2 years, and all I did was put it in a white plastic bag and tied it up and put it in a food storage bucket that had the gamma lid. That was before there was a lot of information out there, and before I had researched and learned more about it. So now that I have, we're going to be redoing all of that. So we've already been 3 minutes on one, and we got 20 more at least to go. Some of them are kind of grouped in too. So number 2 is white salt, non-iodized. Let me see if I can get this in the frame while I read to you. Salt never, ever expires as long as you have the non-iodized. You store it in airtight containers such as your jars. Next is raw honey. And I've always heard that. Honey never expires. It never goes bad. It will crystallize and turn to a sugar type. So all you would need to do is whatever your honey is in, just sit it in a bowl or a pan of very warm water, not boiling, because it will, if your container you have it in is plastic ones, it's going to melt that. But you don't want to cook it. You just want to warm it up enough. And then as you're warming it up and it starts to melt back to its original state, then you can just stir it up. Ow, that's my toe. So with honey, you can store it in jars with airtight lids. And of course, glass is always best for that. And like I said, if it crystallizes, just put it in some warm water and it will go back to its original state. The next one is dried beans, and I wonder if anybody saw that coming. Comment down below if you like beans or not. And if push comes to shove, if there is ever a situation, and I hope there's not ever a situation, that's why my pantry is a working pantry. And what that means is we eat and rotate what we have in it. When we buy new, it goes to the back, and we eat in the front first. So I suggest doing that. But if there ever is a situation you can't go to the store and buy food and all you have is beans, you're going to eat beans. Just like if there's only thing we have to eat for meat is Spam. I'm not a fan of it, but if I'm hungry, I'm going to eat Spam. But anyway, okay. So your dried beans, kidney, pinto, black, navy, chickpeas, and lentils. Store them in airtight containers. You either can use an oxygen absorber in a Mylar bag or put them in jars and vacuum seal. And that's going to start being my norm of how I'm going to store foods is in jars. I knew at one time it was hard to find jars. Jars you can get if you even see them at a yard sale or an estate sale. Just don't reuse your lids. Buy new lids, please. Okay, steel cut and rolled oats. You'll want to freeze these for 3 to 7 days. And this is one thing that I recommend doing. Now, you might see from somebody else, you do you, boo. You research it yourself. But when it comes to storing oats, I'm going to freeze mine first. Then you're going to vacuum seal them with an oxygen absorber to double protect that no larvae or whatever is in there. It's going to hatch out for your long-term storage. Next is pasta. Store in a vacuum sealed jar for best long-term storage. 3 to 5 years is basically what I'm getting out of research for most things. And if you have a working pantry, that's how you keep your items from never expiring. All-purpose flour. Make sure it is all-purpose flour. Freeze it for 3 to 7 days and allow it to sit in a bucket for 3 to 7 days so that there's no moisture in it. Then vacuum seal it in either your Mylar bags or your jars. The main reason that I do jars, and I'm going to continue to do the jars, is because we do live in the country. Our 5 acres is surrounded by cow fields, and other farmers. So we do have rodents that come in occasionally. So you have to protect your items like that from those kind of problems. Your white granulated sugar is the only kind. The white granulated sugar. You can store this in a jar that is vacuum sealed. You do not need to add oxygen absorbers to this. Baking soda. I'm showing you great value brands on most of these items because I want you to know and understand you do not need to buy name brand. You can use what you can afford to store. It's basically all the same. The thing with baking soda, it pretty much will last forever. The only thing that it can do after several years is lose its potency. Now, what I want to tell you is you can test the potency of your baking soda by adding 1/4 teaspoon vinegar to 1 tablespoon of baking soda. If it fizzes like really just vigorously just fizzes, it's still good and you can bake with it. If it's lightly fizzes or not at all, you can still use it to brush your teeth with, to clean your pans with, and items like that. Distilled white vinegar, which we have in our house all the time. And I've already pretty well knew it didn't go bad. Because when we have it around more than 2 to 3 weeks, that's when we were like, oh, is that still good? Yeah, it's still good. I did a lot of research on this before I'm telling you this. Distilled vinegar actually preserves itself because of the vinegar. So even if it's open, so if you buy the big gallon jugs like we do, and even if it's open, it's good for many years. Just keep your lid tight every time you close it back. Pure vanilla extract, not imitation extract. Pure vanilla extract. You can make your own. That's for another video. But pure vanilla extract, stored in its original bottle in a cabinet, cool, dark place. Do not refrigerate your vanilla, your pure vanilla. I'm not going to talk for imitation vanilla. That's totally up to you. Do not refrigerate your vanilla. It is not necessary, and it will last pretty much forever. Whole spices will last 4+ years. You can grind your own as needed. Black peppercorns, cinnamon sticks, real cinnamon, cumin seeds, coriander seeds, cloves, nutmeg, dried chili peppers, and dried bay leaves. Store in airtight jars in a cool, dark place. Your spices that have a shorter shelf life but still would last probably 3 to 5 years are your dried herbs, oregano, basil, thyme, parsley, rosemary, flakes. Let's go with 1 to 3 years on those. Blended seasonings, your seasoned salt, your curry powder, chili powder, and Italian seasoning blends, 1 to 3 years on those as well. Okay, change of background, but continuing on. The next is non-fat dry powdered milk, and dry powdered milk will last 20+ years in vacuum sealed jars in small usable portions. I asked specifically to Gemini and then researched myself onto Google and other platforms if leaving the dry powdered milk in their original envelopes, because it comes in the pouches, if it would last as well for storage, and it said no, definitely not. If you put it in a Mylar bag, take all the air out, put an oxygen absorber or into a mason jar and take the air out, it will last 20+ years, but not in its original packaging. It will not. Make sure you store it in small unusable portions, because once you open it, you can't really reseal it up, because it's gonna add moisture in that jar every time you open it. Freeze-dried fruits. I'm showing you strawberries, but all the freeze-dried fruits, blueberries, bananas, what have you, mixed fruits, can be kept for many years. I do know that if you put these in a Mylar bag and you put in an oxygen absorber and then seal it up tightly, that they will last like 25 years plus. I will be storing them in the glass jar with an oxygen absorber and taking them out of the bags. Some people leave them in the bags, and if you have a working pantry, such as I do, Then I do have some bags that are in the front that we will use, but I also have some for long-term storage as well. Every time I see a coffee grinder, and it wasn't this kind, but a coffee grinder reminds me of the movie Dances with Wolves, and he's sitting there and he's grinding the coffee beans, he's doing this, that, and the other, and then they puts the pictures over the Native Americans, and they're all looking at each other like, what's he doing? It's hilarious. But anyway, so coffee beans. I did ask and researched, can you leave coffee in the original containers? And the answer in short was yes. However, it's only really good for anywhere from 2 to 3 years before it starts losing its actual flavor. Of course, the plastic bottles that your coffee, or the plastic like jars, cans, I mean, that they're stored in, can be chewed through by rodents or what have you. I mean, so can Mylar bags, but you're going to take those and put them in another tote as well and kind of double protect yourself, hopefully, with that. So, beans actually last longer, 10 to 15 years. You'll just have to grind them as you need them. So, but have it all, because we have it. We have, Folgers is our brand. So we have it in the big containers, the big, huge red containers. And we just, as we use it, buy more and stick it towards the back. So the jars, it's instant. They'll last forever too. They're freeze dried. So I would just have beans on hand, just in case. And then meanwhile, let your working pantry be what you have in your canisters. I mean, you do your own. It's however you do it, as long as you have one. That's all that any of us preppers ask, is have something, please, to help you get through the hard times. Chocolate, cocoa powder. I don't know too many people, women especially, are going to go without their chocolate and their coffee. I mean, give me chocolate and coffee, I'm pretty happy. But to store your cocoa powder, best stored in glass jars that are vacuum sealed, and it will last pretty much forever. Don't get bored. Stick with me. We're almost done. These are items you need to know. Ghee. Do you use ghee on a daily basis? I don't. But ghee is shelf stable without refrigeration for 5 to 10 years at room temperature. Think about that. Worcestershire, is that how you pronounce it? Can anybody pronounce it correctly? I know of a girl that's a southern girl that calls it wash your sister. Now you call it what you want to call it, but this pretty much will last for 3 years, mainly because it is made of vinegar and salt. So, and once it's open, you keep it in the refrigerator, it's good for up to 3 years. Canned foods. I'm going to put this picture up here a little bit closer so that you can see these a little better. So your canned foods, your meats are your corned beef, spam, chicken, fish, tuna, sardines, and salmon. Soups are creamed or regular. Canned foods can last for 10 to 15 years as long as they aren't punctured, rusted, or dented severely. They can last for that long on your shelf. Try to have a working one where it's not doing that, of course. Number 20, one more after this. Pure maple syrup lasts indefinitely. Pure maple syrup lasts indefinitely. You heard me right. The last one, chia seeds. With chia seeds, you want to store them in a cool and dark place. You want to vacuum seal them in airtight glass jars. Last 4 to 5 years. Chia seeds. They are so full of vitamins and filling. You put them in, you soak them in water or whatever liquid you want to use to let them swell. You can add them to smoothies. You can add them to ice cream. You can use them in place of rice. So they have many, many uses, and I believe they're very highly concentrated with protein. So, if you made this far, I thank you and I appreciate you. And I want to share a real quick recipe with you from your working storage, okay? You take for like a couple, 3, 4 people, you take a can of creamed soup, a can of chicken, and some white rice, and you cook that together. You can cook it just as a meal, all in one pot meal, and that's easy. That's easy. Rice is filling, the chicken is filling because it's protein, and your creamed soup, because it's creamed, is filling. You can add your powdered milk in with the water to make it creamy. So there you go. All you do with this is you add those together, you cook them all together on the stove. If you have any vegetables you want to add into it, that's fine and totally up to you. And if you have a way of baking it, if you're like using it now, but I'm thinking once we're in it, if we get into a position to where we're having to cook without getting your grill out and announcing to the world that you have a way to cook and you have food, because that could cause very much unrest close to you, and we don't want to do that. So this is something that you can cook quietly in a confined area, and it's not going to make that much smell out wide to the world, and it's easy. That's all I have for you now. This is going to be a long video. Try to save it and store it, please. Tell me in the comments below which one surprised you the most on the storage life of it, which ones that you already knew, and if there was more, tell me. Tell all of us. Let's all share in the comments, okay? I love you all so much. Thank you. Remember to always be you. Beautiful. Bye for now.